You might want to take some notes. You will be expected to reply to this video with 3 important things that you learned about Visual Studio Code from the video. I'm really doing just a quick tour. You'll learn more about it by simply playing with it. There are some tutorials in LinkedIn Learning, and there's also the tutorials that come with Visual Studio Code right when you launch it from the launch screen. And it's a really good idea to go through those. I think that the interactive coding is the best way to learn. But I want to show you a few things, and I also want to introduce you to Emmet, which is an installed tool that's part of Visual Studio Code that makes coding significantly faster and easier. So I'm in my Web 105 folder, and it capitalized that because I actually have it in lowercase. But I have a few things in here, and I really just am going to start by giving you a tour of the interface. You'll learn things as we go along, but I want to sort of show you around. So we start here. We have the File menu. Preferences is where you can set different things. You can pick different themes. I like the dark theme I'm using. You've got keyboard shortcuts, settings. Let's take a look at settings. Autosave is a good idea. And I like my files to autosave, but I don't then have them auto-upload. Font size default 14, I'm fine with that. You can use Control or Command plus to make fonts larger or smaller. If you don't like the font family, you can change it here. Tab size of 4 is pretty standard. And so most of these things are really standard. I like WordWrap to be on. And I just reloaded an updated version of this and it reset my settings. So it's giving me a chance to go through and take a look at things. And for the most part, I generally like the defaults. So you want format on save, a format must be available. This would be prettier. Format on paste. Format on type, yes. These give you code suggestions. And so it's worth reading through here to see what options you have available. So like you have your appearance, you've got different themes. Actually, I kind of like this. So you can play with those. You can do, it's worth just looking through here. You really should tour it, but these are your options. And you should take some time and look through them. And then I'm going to Control S and close my settings. So in the File menu, that's pretty much the one that you're going to use the most, is getting into your preferences. Then we have our Edit, which has your standard commands. Tab is how you expand Emmet abbreviations. I'll show you those in a minute. So we have the ability to have shortcuts to add cursors, add next occurrence, select all occurrences. Should take some time exploring here. We can go into the different options here. I like WordWrap again. We have different options. Let me escape from that. Run is a debugging option. We won't really get into that much at this point. The debugging that we use in here is down here. That gives you information. Terminal, we'll use that a little bit when we get to the JavaScript section. And so you can see all of these different options in here. And if you really want to get better with it, going through video tutorials is a really good way to go. So down on this side, we have our Explorer. That's our File Explorer, which we open and close. We're working within the Web 105 folder. We can add files. We can add folders. We can refresh instead of in case you're pulling it from an outside server and you want to refresh it, we can look for things either in the files or in the code. We can do a find and replace. This has to do with source control. This lets us work with GitHub, which we'll get to later on, but we're going to be using the web version, so we don't really get into source control in here, but it can set it up to basically do auto backups of your code in from Visual Studio Code to GitHub. You can play with that on your own. It's not required here. For the projects, we do expect that you're going to save your code up to GitHub. We have a debugging tool, which you can do more than just HTML in here. That's more when you're doing C++, JavaScript, things like that. In HTML, it pretty much is sensitive. Extensions. So I use Code Spell Checker. I have a bunch of these in here. GitHub Copilot. We will be playing with this later in the semester. I'm still learning how to use it. I'm trying to get it set up with the free teacher version so that I can learn how to set you guys up with the free student version. Open in browser. This is really helpful. Prettier. I like this because it helps format my code, and you'll see in an upcoming video how to use ProDeployer, which is what I use to upload my files to the internet. This is a new one. That's the GitHub Copilot Labs. Going to learn how to use it. This is new. I just reloaded today, and Microsoft Edge tools came up. It has code editing that you can view in the browser. I prefer Chrome, but we will play with that in the future. You have your personal setting here, your accounts. And so I'm logged in as Mary Ingle GitHub. I should really sign out and sign back in as M. Kasprek. I got married over the summer, so I need to update that. And that's pretty easy to do. And then we have our basic settings, extensions, themes, check for updates. Those are your basic things. On the bottom here, this shows us any errors we'd have. So if I had an error, see if I can generate an error here. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. So it's not telling me the error, but often you can just by the red code, it'll show you where there's something wrong here. On the bottom, it tells me what line and column I'm in, tell me how my indentation is, my encoding. It selects your end of line sequence, your language mode. I'm in HTML. This is my ProDeployer. It says I have a spelling error, and it shows me that I have Prettier working. This lets me split to have 2 pages running side by side. I do this when I'm using cascading style sheets. So again, watch the videos, go through. The best way to learn any new technology is to just get in and start playing with it. But that gives you a bit of an overview of Visual Studio Code. So tell me 3 things that you learned today on Visual Studio Code that will help you to remember. And the more you use it, the easier it gets to use.